Good, it actually worked. Hello, peeps. I'm your host, King, and welcome to this episode of Kerbal Space Program and Star Trek. Today, I'm excited to share with you a very special project I'm working on. As you know, I'm a huge fan of both Kerbal Space Program and Star Trek. Hold on, let me see if I can change my shirt. Yeah, there we go. So after 4 years of thinking and planning it in my head, I finally decided to take on the challenge of recreating the opening theme to the TV show Star Trek Enterprise using only Kerbal Space Program. In this video, I'll be showing you how I went about recreating each scene from the opening theme. All this was made while live streaming. Our community on Twitch helped me bring this passion project to life for the last 2 months and over the course of 197 hours. But just wait, there's more. I wanted new players to be able to see how Kerbal Space Program allows for infinite creativity right out of the box. To that end, I used no mods in creating this video. Playing Kerbal Space Program without mods has been a type of challenge for me. Each of the scenes were recreated in Kerbal Space Program to match as closely as possible to the original. So when we start off here, the colors are very, very muted. There's not a lot of color in it. The colors change a lot in the beginning and the middle. At the beginning, it's very muted colors. Then it goes very orange, very, very orange. And then everything turns very blue. And then it becomes very vibrant color. So yeah, the original, the colors were very, very muted at the very beginning. So I tried to match that as close as I could. And in the original, the shape, the horizon of the Earth is the same shape as this globe that appears later on. I wanted to do that initially, but I decided afterwards that, I'll try to use KSP graphics, what we see in the game or related to KSP or made officially by like official Kerbal Space Program video stuff as much as possible. This part's probably one of my favorite parts. It goes from, at the very beginning there was no color, and then here it's so dark. This is one of the darkest lighting it gets in the entire video, and it's so orange, dark red. And it goes from no color to dark red, and then it goes to blue, and it's really cool how the colors change so much. This part I wanted to throw in the Kraken a little bit, so I found this painting. This is actually a wood carving. So this right here, 1801, the giant, what is that, octopus? So I took this beautiful Pacific Ocean map, and I took the top part here and the bottom part here and chopped it up and put it together, and we made this. So for these scenes, I also matched the camera shake frame by frame. You can see that I made it so the camera shakes exactly in the same way that the original does. So when you look at the printed logo of the Spirit of St. Louis, it shakes in the exact same way. The submarine Deep Flight 1 right here, it was so hard to get this shot, like to get the Kerbal to fly underwater to exactly in the correct angle was really difficult, but getting it to sink was pretty cool. We used parts that have very low buoyancy because most parts in KSP float like crazy, and it's really hard to get underwater things to stay underwater. But with this, it stayed underwater because these parts really don't float. So if you want to make submarines, try using parts that don't float very much, and it'll make it a lot easier to control. Most of the times when you see people making submarines, they gotta put a lot of weight, like ore tanks, or they gotta have rockets that are pointing up to shove the ship down to keep it underwater. But you don't actually need to do any of that. You just need to make sure that you pick and use parts that don't float as much. I kind of like how that turned out. I should stop saying that because I'm really happy with a lot of how this turned out, because this is so cool. Like this scene right here, it was so fun making it. I think somebody in chat asked me to use fireworks because the original has a lot of sparks going on. There's a lot of fireworks stuff going on here. And I didn't know what this was at the very beginning, which rocket this was. This is actually the space shuttle. And that's the puff engine right here. Oh man, I had to redo this scene because I was not happy. The original was so crappy. Do I have the original somewhere? Oh, here it is. Okay. So this oh my gosh. So this was this was the first recording of this. It was so bad. Like, I don't even it's so bad. This is so horrible. I don't even know where to begin. What is this ring? Hello. Look at the shadows. Look at the crappy shadows right here. That is so bad. It's like way too skinny. The camera position is wrong. This was so bad. And this is how I put it in the video at first. And then, I don't know, like 3 weeks later, I was like, no, dude, I can't. We need to redo this. And so we redid this, and this is way better, I think. If you look really closely in the original video, the flame trench, you see the flame trench redirecting all that exhaust sideways, so it looks like the rocket is engulfed in flames. We didn't see that in the originally because the flame trenches don't work that way in KSP. So I put like a lot of solid rocket boosters that are pointed sideways, and we fired it all at once. That's why this thing is just like there's just fire everywhere. Oh my gosh, this was so hard to make. This part was ridiculously difficult to make. So this is the skirt between the first and second stages on a Saturn V, if I remember right. And there's like a lot going on here that doesn't happen in KSP. So the second stage engines are actually on right now, and it's blowing on the skirt as the skirt is ejected. That's where all that flame is coming from. You can have your exhaust blow on a skirt or a piece of debris in KSP, but it doesn't envelop it in flame like that in game. It doesn't work that way. Nothing happens. It just gets blown off. So to recreate that, we used, like, I don't know, 64 or something separatrons firing all at the same time to make it look like it's on fire. But that would usually push this skirt towards the ship. So to make it fly away from the ship, even though these engines are actually not on, because in the game it will look totally differently, this ring here is actually invisibly connected to a bunch of solid rocket boosters that are in front of the ship right now. And those SRBs are pointed, they're pointed backwards. They're pointing in a retrograde direction. And so the SRBs are pushing this ring harder than the separatrons are pushing the ring forward. So that we're lighting rockets at both ends right here, but the ones that are in the front are stronger. I also made it unbalanced so that I thrust limited one of the SRBs so that it drops off unevenly, and that's why it drops off to the side instead of going straight back. I don't know how many. Each one of these scenes right here, each one of these took at 2 to 8 hours each. Like, this was like an entire stream. Each one of these scenes here was like a stream, like an entire day of streaming. Is that right, guys? I think that's pretty much right. So something like that. It was crazy. Oh, this part is really neat. I need to stop saying that. I keep saying that over and over. So this part has a lot of components to it. So this astronaut is holding onto the International Space Station, and his arm moves and extends if you look very closely. And so I made it so that Valentina's arm also moves as well. So to do that, I have Valentina's body, and in a separate layer I have Valentina's arm. Here we go, right here. And Valentina's arm moves with the hitchhiker can. So it looks like she extends her arm as she zooms in. This footprint, there is a video on the official KSP YouTube channel of the Xbox release of KSP. And that, as far as I know, is the only time that you get to see a footprint of a Kerbal. And on the moon. So I took that. And I also noticed that in the original video, this part is actually animated as far as I can tell. This foot doesn't really move as a video. This toe part is independent than the rest of the leg, and it rotates and lifts off, along with the shadow being animated as well. And so once I realized that I could recreate that in KSP, I took a picture of Jeb's foot, and then there are different layers here that rotates and lifts off. Where is it? Did I have that in a... Okay, I have that in a completely different video, so don't worry about it. So the toe part doesn't move. It's a separate piece, and it lifts off together, and it moves along with the shadow in the same way. Because that's really hard to do with in-game graphics. This was, I think, the second most difficult scene to film. I'm pretty sure it's like the second. I think the Enterprise one was the hardest. But this part was so difficult. So the way that we did this was I had the space station completely built and assembled already, launched into space. And we had it so that it detaches into 4 different parts. And I named it Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, and Delta. And I first recorded it with it being whole. I then quick loaded the game, and we have a camera drone that launches from around here. At the exact same time, we record it 4 times. We launch the camera drone, we look at the clock on the top left-hand corner of the screen, and we launch it exactly at the same time, at the exact same angle, at the exact same speed. But each time, I would jettison parts of the space station before I start filming. And because we start at the exact same time, same angle, and same speed, more or less the station looks exactly the same. It's just missing parts every single time that we film it. And so the background, the Kerbin landscape in the background also is very, very close every time as well. So we actually filmed it in reverse, sort of. We filmed this section first, where they're all put together, and then we took off a section and then launched the camera drone and recorded. And then we did that again with another part. And then finally we launched, we jettisoned all 3 parts and then recorded it. And then we put it all together. This is the SS Emmett. I think it's the starship that was used to go between the moon and Earth. And with this scene, there's a moon city. And so I made a fake moon city. That's actually the Kerbal Space Center. Parts of it repeated in black and white at a similar angle as the camera angle would be. And you know, I thought this final scene was going to be the easiest scene. No, this was definitely the most difficult scene. This was ridiculous how hard this was. So it took 9 hours to build the NX Enterprise, which was, I loved it, but there's a lot of things that were difficult about building this. So unlike other Enterprises, the saucer section's not a circle, it's oval. So you can't just place things in a symmetrical ring and then call it a day, because they won't look right. I had to make it in 2 different circles and then spread it out and then connect it together. If you look really closely, you can see the deflection, if you look really closely, you can see the deflector dish there too. Lighting up the nacelles was a lot of fun, because I toned down the lighting to, I think, like negative 100% lighting. And the Bassard collector, the red part, is lit actually by 4 different lights that are just magically floating here, that are pointed towards the Bassard collectors, but you can't see them because they're so tiny. And the blue part of the nacelles, these are a series of solar panels and bar lights that are blue. So getting this into space took another 10 hours, I think, because the Kraken kept on eating it over and over. 10 hours. So it was 9 hours to build this, 10 hours to finally get it into space. Oh my gosh, look at that red and blue reflection. That looks so beautiful. And then getting this right, oh my gosh, I don't even know how long this took. This took at least another 10 hours to get this right, but it was a lot of fun. So the video of the Kraken did not like the Kraken really liked the Enterprise. That's what the problem was. It really liked the Enterprise. So to try to make it look the same or very similar, we had to make it go into warp, right? So the video actually ends here, and from here, these are just animated stills. So we fired off some fireworks so we can make it look like it's glowing. The nacelles are glowing. And then as it's shrinking, I just animated, there's like a series of 3-4 different pictures that are stretched out. This was kind of complicated because we wanted the star field to be exactly the same at the end, but the Enterprise was always going to be in there, you see, because this scene right here is actually recorded by EVA-ing Kerbal. So you can only see the Enterprise within 2.3 kilometers. Once we keep on recording and the Enterprise keeps floating away, once it hits 2.3 kilometers, the camera just resets back. So no matter what we did, we always saw the Enterprise here. So in the original picture, you can see the Enterprise, a tiny Enterprise right here. So it looked really weird. The Enterprise would warp out, but there's an Enterprise right here. So that was really weird. It's not like I can just go back and take another screenshot of it because it had to be the exact same angle. And so we had to use this original footage somehow. So at first, the way that I tried to hide that was I had a black redacted box. But it was so weird because you could see the black box of the Enterprise being paused right there the entire time. So I took that away. So what I ended up doing was a combination. I went back and I took a screenshot of the general area of this starfield, this area that the Enterprise disappears into. And then I photoshopped, I used GIMP, and I superimposed just a part of that starfield and I pasted it on top of it. So there's supposed to be the Enterprise right here, but I took a screenshot of some of the stars of where the Enterprise is supposed to be, and then I stuck it on top. So if you look really close, maybe I can actually show it. Where is it? There it is! I don't know if you can see it right there here. That's the Enterprise. Those are the nacelles. That's what it's supposed to be, because when the Enterprise disappears into warp, like that, this is when the camera resets. And the Enterprise is still there. It was so weird. So I took a layer right here, and then I stuck it right on top to hide it. So the Enterprise is now hidden like that. So if you look really closely, it jiggles a little bit, but you can't really tell. Not really. Unless you look very, very, very closely. So yeah. Oh yes, and so, I better hide it. And at the very end, this entering warp, that's a fireworks explosion. And the way they did it in the original video is that there's a spark that gradually gets bigger and it gets taller vertically. And then it fades away. And so that's exactly what I tried to mimic. Also, to make it look more realistic, I made it so that the camera keeps on moving sideways. So if you look at the stars, it keeps on moving sideways. It looks a lot fakier and not fun if the stars are not moving while the ship is entering warp, I noticed. And that's exactly what the original video does as well. The stars keep on moving, the camera keeps on moving. So I made sure that the warp spark thing keeps on moving as well. I've been waiting to make this video of Star Trek Enterprise opening credits video combined with Kerbal Space Program for years. I hope this video will introduce Kerbal Space Program players that have not seen. My hope is that this will introduce Kerbal Space Program players that have not seen the show to maybe check out Star Trek Enterprise, and vice versa. Did you know I live stream? I think I mentioned it earlier. My Twitch community helped me create this shiny video. You're invited to come hang out with us at twitch.tv/king_dogspeed. My Twitch community helped me research historical info on many of the scenes to help me improve the quality of the video. I hope you enjoyed this look at my Kerbal Space Program recreation of Star Trek Enterprise's opening theme. If you're interested in trying out KSP for yourself, I encourage you to give it a go. It's a challenging but rewarding game that can be enjoyed by people of all ages. And if you're ever feeling discouraged, just remember that if I can do it, you can too. I'm your host, King Dogspeed, and thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. By the way, coming soon. Jeez.